Hello, hello. I am here. Come on in, everyone. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you guys. I'm going to share this as you're coming in. If you can do me a favor and share the broadcast, tag some people to join you to watch, I would appreciate it. Hey, Nisi, good to see you. I'm just sharing this. If you all can do me a favor, tag people and share, I would appreciate it. Hey, Sheena, good to see you. See you over there on YouTube. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for tagging people, Nisi. Welcome, welcome. I hope that you all are having a great Friday. TGIF. And how many of you are excited about the new year? What are your feelings about the new year? Are you excited? Are you scared? Are you anxious? What is your perspective of the new year? I'm excited. Of course, there's always a little bit of nervousness because God is definitely stretching me, but I'm excited. Hello, hello, Della. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Hey, Jasmine. Thank you for tagging. Thank you all for coming in, tagging people, letting them know I'm live, for sharing the broadcast. I appreciate it. I always like to give it a couple of minutes just to give some more people time to jump on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Kenny, good to see you. Hey, Lisa, I see you over there on YouTube. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I know that many people are dealing with being mentally. Oh, you have 10 minutes before session. Oh, I'm sorry, Ashanta. Yeah, I got on here late. I planned to get on here at 12:30. Yes, catch the replay. Catch the replay. But I know many of us are dealing with mental exhaustion, especially as you get to the end of the year. You're exhausted from the year. You're tired thinking about the new year. Hey, LaQuisha, thank you for jumping on. And so we can just be mentally tired. I have been dealing with this myself. I have helped other people who are dealing with this. And so I just felt like this was a great time to talk about this briefly. Now, I'm not going to do no hour workshop. We're going to do a quick 20, 30-minute broadcast on this. But not only do I want you to be mindful of the spiritual side, but anybody who knows me knows that I believe in balancing the spiritual and the practical. So, yes, I am a pastor, I am a prophet, but I'm also a counselor. And I think that one of my gifts and strengths is being able to merge those two worlds together because honestly, we live in these two dimensions. We have the spiritual dimension and we have the natural dimension. We are spiritual beings, but we are still having a natural experience. And I do believe that it is important for us to have practicality when we're talking about these things, but to also be mindful of the spiritual impact and you know how this can be affecting the will of God and the plan of God for our lives. And so we need to have balance. So if you have not already shared this, if you have not already tagged people, please definitely jump on. Hey, Jess, I'm so glad you're taking lunch right on time. Hey, Pastor LaShonda, good to see you. So yes, if you haven't already shared, if you haven't already tagged some people to come watch the replay, definitely do so, because I know there are a lot of people who are going through this, and you may not be in counseling right now. You may not have a counselor. You may not be ready for counseling. You may be afraid of counseling. Whatever the case may be, I'm hoping that this will give you at least a few tools that you can use to feel less overwhelmed and less exhausted. Hey, Ashley, thank you for jumping on. So let's dive into it very quickly. Okay, so when you're feeling mentally exhausted, one of the roughest things about mental exhaustion is you just get to a point to where you start to feel so overwhelmed that you're just ready to throw your hands up. How many of you have been at that place where you're just like, child, I'm done. I am done. I have nothing left. I don't care anymore. That's how you know you're mentally tired. When you get to that place where you don't care anymore, where you become just indifferent to what's going on with your life, you're not necessarily mad, but you're not excited. You're not ready to fight. You're just done. You're just saying, I don't know what to do. Okay. God, you just gonna have to do it. Y'all can have it. You can have the house. You can have the money. Like, you just ready to walk away from it all. All of us have been there. I see you guys jumping on. Thank you for jumping on. Don't forget to share and tag people to watch. But all of us have been there, okay? All of us have been in the place where we have wanted to throw our hands up. So let's come out of the religiosity. I don't care if you're a senior pastor. I don't care if you're a prophet. I don't care if you're evangelist. I don't care if you're a mom, your dad, you're a business owner, you're a Christian, whatever your title, identity is, everybody has been at the point where you are ready to just walk away from it all. You may not be suicidal, but you are definitely tired. You are finished and done. And you're just like, I've been in those points where I'm just like, Lord, I just wish I could just take my skin off, like everything bothers me. My body aches. My mind is tired. Like, I just want to come out of myself and just be a spirit floating around, Like, I've been done. Okay. So we have all been there. We have been at that place of mental exhaustion. Our mind gets tired, just like our bodies get tired, just like our souls get tired. Every part of you that is actively working gets fatigued and becomes tired. When we go through mental exhaustion, it's just that your mind is tired. Your mind has been working very hard, especially when you've had a tough year with a lot of obstacles and a lot of challenges and a lot of stretching and personal stretching and trials and tribulations. When you've had years like that, especially once the years begin to accumulate, you start to feel mentally tired. And it makes you feel even more tired when you have not resolved things from your past. Okay. The Bible says, Jesus said, in this life, we will have tribulations. So in this life, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have trials. But one of the biggest things that works against us is that we typically don't deal with things as they come. We suppress them, we push them down, we try not to address it, we try not to feel it, we don't process it. And so when you get new challenges and you get new obstacles and new oppositions and new storms and new pain and new rejection, all of that stuff begins to build upon itself. So now you get to the point to where you're not just fighting through today's challenges or this year's challenges. Honey, you fighting through the stuff that you've been going through since you were 5. You're fighting through the things that you went through at 10. You're fighting through the things that you went through at 16. Why? Because when we don't get healed and when we don't process through our old experiences, new experiences begin to trigger the emotions and the pain and the challenges of our past experiences. So now I'm not just in the fight of what I'm in right now. I am fighting the things that I've also gone through years ago. Okay, so this begins to drain me even more. It begins to mentally weigh me down even more. But then when we add on top of that, not knowing how to fight, not knowing how to process, not knowing how to deal with these things, that becomes mentally exhausted. Your mind is exhausted because your mind has not been able to rest. Right? I've not entered into a place or into a state of rest. If you have not shared this or tagged people, please do so, because I know there are a lot of people who are on the edge right now and you don't know what to do. And so if you have people in your life and friends and family that you know need this message and will not go to counseling, please tag them, okay? And so we get to that point to where we don't know what to do, how to handle this, because I'm handling the pain of today. I'm handling the pain of yesterday. Okay. So this is a lot of times how we get to this place. You're mentally tired. My mind has been reeling. My mind has been going. My mind has been working overtime, trying to fix things, worrying about things, being tormented by past memories and pain, trying to press through grief, all of these things. My mind is working overtime and my mind is tired. I have not entered into a place of rest. My mind is going. How many of you know that when you are dealing with chronic, when you're dealing with bad anxiety, when you're a worrier, when you're an overthinker, that even when you're trying to sleep at night, you're not resting. Your mind is still running. Your mind is still going. So you're not even resting at nighttime. You're not even resting when you sleep. This is why you're tossing and turning, because your mind has not entered into the REM cycle. Your mind is still reeling. Your mind is still going. Pictures are still going. Voices are still happening and taking place. Good afternoon, Tanisha, and everyone that's jumping on. All these things are still going on. So even as you're trying to sleep, you're waking up out of your sleep. So your sleep cycle is off. This is the mental exhaustion. Okay, so when you get to that place and you say, I'm just exhausted mentally, I don't know, no sleep is helping me. Half the time, you're not even having good sleep because your mind is reeling, your mind is running. Okay, there are three main popular causes for us getting to this mentally exhausted state, and that's worry and anxiety, because anxiety is in essence chronic worry. Okay, worry and anxiety, overthinking, and just having unnecessary things on your mental plate. So when we are feeling mentally exhausted, most of the times there are these three things, either all three, two of the three, or one of the three, but it includes these things. You're either dealing with bad anxiety and worry, you're a chronic overthinker, or you have a lot of unnecessary things on your mental plate. Okay? So when we talk about worry and anxiety, I want you to really understand, and I can speak of it to this from a very personal place, because many people have heard me say I used to be a chronic worrier. I used to have anxiety. I used to always be worried about something. And one of the ways that you know that you're always worried about something is because you even feel it in your body. When you deal with bad anxiety, you feel it in your body. Your body is tired because you're tense. When you're worried and you're trepidatious and you're always thinking about what can go wrong or what is going to happen or what negative thing is going to happen next, your body is physically tense. So even when you try to sleep at night, your body's not relaxing. And some of you can relate to that. Even now, that when you go to bed at night or even throughout the day, you have times where your body is tight and your muscles are tight. And I always tell people, this is why I'm so big on breathing. And see, Christians miss the importance of breathing because we have begun to classify breathing as some Western type of religion and Western medicine and spiritualism. That is not true. When we think about the very beginning of time, the Bible says that God breathed into man and he became a living soul. The breath that we have is from God. Okay? And yeah, that new age. Exactly, Dominica. But the breath that we have comes from God. And I tell people all the time, if you are feeling your body's feeling tense, 9 times out of 10, you're holding your breath. And I used to do that. I used to subconsciously hold my breath at moments at a time. Didn't even realize I was doing it. Especially if I'm in a tense situation, if you're at work or something and it's stressful, you will find yourself not breathing. And that's why you take those big gulps of breath from time to time where you'll go, because you really weren't breathing, honey. You were not breathing. And so we have to breathe. Breathing helps relax your body. And so if you are sitting there and you realize that your body is feeling tense, you have to really take a moment. And I always talk to people about box breathing, which is the most basic breathing practice. And they even use it in the military. Okay. And it's basically inhaling for like 6 seconds, holding it for 6 seconds, and exhaling for 8 seconds. Okay. And your exhale always needs to be longer than your inhale. Because if not, if your exhale is shorter than your inhale, you can create panic. You can have a panic or an anxiety attack just from breathing. See how powerful breathing is? That even if your breathing is off, it can trigger a panic attack because it regulates your heartbeat. Okay? And so if I find myself, you're triggering an increase in your heart rate and it can lead to a panic attack. Breathe in for 6, hold for 6, exhale for 8. Typically, you're going to hold as long as you inhale. And then your exhale should be a little slower than your inhale. Okay, so even if you want to, if you can't hold it that long, you breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, exhale for 6. Okay, but breathing is so powerful. This is why when people are panicking, they're hyperventilating. And one of the best things you can do to slow down a panic attack is to monitor your breathing, slow your breathing down. So even if you feel anxiety coming over your body in a certain situation, you close your eyes, you try to clear your mind, and you just listen and feel the breath. Okay, you feel how you focus on how it feels coming into your nose. You hold it, focus on how it feels coming out of your mouth. That helps you redirect your mind away from the thing that's creating the panic, helps slow your heart rate down. But breathing is important. And so if we are dealing with a lot of anxiety, we're going to notice that in our bodies are going to be tense. Another thing you can do when your body feels tense, even if you're laying down at night, you can practice tensing parts of your body and relaxing them, and start from your feet and go all the way up to your head. So you just lay on your back, you try to get comfortable, have a comfortable environment going. It may be about the, you may have some worship music or instrumental music or something like that. Make sure the temperature is right. And then you go, you tense your feet, hold it for like 5 seconds, then release. Then you tense your legs, hold it, then release. Then you tense your fingers. You just work your way up your body. Make it tense, hold it, relax. Okay? And so things like that. But let's get back over to the mental exhaustion. So typically, like I said, when we're dealing with mental exhaustion, we are seeing those three things. You're struggling with anxiety, you're overthinking, and you have a bunch of unnecessary things on your mental plate. But we need to remember that anxiety is very related to fear and overthinking. They're all related. Okay, so though they can be slightly different, they're all related. Anxiety, worry, and fear are all related to overthinking. But you may have where you're not necessarily fully overthinking, but you deal with a lot of anxiety. And anxiety basically is just when you imagine a threat that may or may not have materialized. So anxiety is always imagining bad things. This can happen. You just live your life feeling like you're threatened in various areas and you're worried about what can go wrong. And so sometimes people with anxiety, with bad anxiety, can have a lot of control, struggles with control, because you're always in your mind trying to protect yourself from a possible threat. And so you control environments to make yourself feel some imaginary safety. You kind of create an illusion of safety for yourself because you always feel that there's a threat. Thank you guys for tagging people and for sharing. I really want this message to be able to be helpful for someone in this season. Okay, worry is a specific type of anxiety. And it's basically when we're constantly thinking about the thing that we feared or the feared outcome or situation. And it's usually involved around uncertainty. So if you go into maybe, let's say you have a job interview, because a lot of people are going into new careers, new jobs, and things. Say you have a job interview and you are just worried that you're going to jack up this job interview. You're like, I just pray I'm not going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And so you're constantly thinking about you messing up. You're saying in your mind, you're constantly thinking about you forgetting what you're supposed to say, stumbling over your words, sabotaging in some kind of way. And that's just playing in your mind. Worry, 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 worry. And then this triggers anxiety because now you're worried and you're anxious and you're afraid that you're going to mess up. When we go into these type of things, we have to learn how to manage our minds. And this does not happen overnight. Okay, you don't learn how to manage your minds overnight, but it is something that once we realize it's a problem, we have to get a hold of that problem. And what I've come to find out, I'm included in this, is that most of us are not told or shown that we can learn to manage our minds. We typically live at the mercy of our own mind. We typically live at the mercy of our own mind. We think that our minds have the right to do whatever they want and we just have to tolerate it. How many of you have felt that way? Where you're like, my whole life, my mind has run my life and it just is what it is. I guess I just got anxiety. I guess I'm just a worrier. I guess I'm just fearful. I guess I'm just an overthinker. And what happens too, when we feel like we don't have any control, we try to move into acceptance, which is not the kind of acceptance that God wants. There are some things that we have to have acceptance in, but that kind of acceptance does not please God. For us to just accept that I'm an overthinker, except that I'll deal with anxiety the rest of my life, except that I'm a worrier. That is not the will of God. And this culture has tried to make that the norm because in an effort to show solidarity to those who have mental health challenges, we have created the language of acceptance, and that does not please God. And this is coming from someone who is totally I am a counselor. I totally acknowledge and understand mental challenges. I specialize in mental challenges. But what you cannot do is expect to get better when we're accepting it and we have become partners with it. When you go into that place of acceptance, you are marrying yourself to the idea that this is something you will always deal with. And I don't agree with that mindset. And many times we do that too, because we don't have the faith to just yet to believe that it can change. Now, anxiety is something that will always be present now and again in our life. But what I don't want you to accept is that you have to live a life filled with anxiety. We all will experience levels of anxiety. And in fact, small levels of anxiety are positive, because without some form of a little bit of anxiety, some you could go through life just ho hum and lackadaisical, and you won't have any motivation to do anything. Okay, so a little bit of it, that nervous energy, sometimes it motivates you to move. But what we don't want to do is be controlled by anxiety. Because when you think about it, like I told you, the root of that anxiety is fear. Okay? So the root of that anxiety and worry is fear. And so when we let anxiety control us, and I know this is heavy for some of you because it's making you take a deeper look within yourself, but look, I want you to know that is okay. That is okay. This is a safe environment for us to be honest about these things, because you cannot get free from it, and you cannot improve, and you cannot heal if you're not honest about it. Okay. So we do have levels of anxiety, but we don't want to be controlled by that anxiety. Okay. And so when we think about the whole the issue with anxiety, we have to, one, understand that faith is required. Faith is required. Okay. And I'm not talking about this whole, religious quoting a bunch of things that you don't live by type of faith. I am talking about us really learning how to implement faith in our lives, and not just saying what sounds Christian and what sounds good. Because we are in this culture where a lot of people quote a lot of scriptures. Hey, Dad, a lot of people quote a lot of scriptures and quote what sounds good, but we haven't let those things seep into our heart. It's become a saying in church, just like, how are you doing? Blessed and highly favored. And then, good and well, you're not feeling blessed. You're complaining the whole way to church. And then when people say, hey, how you doing? You're saying blessed and highly favored. You're saying God is good, but then you're cursing him in the car. Okay. So we have to learn how to really begin to implement those things. Hey, thank you for jumping on from the UK. We have to learn how to really begin to implement those things. I taught a message on Mary and Martha. We know this popular story in the Bible of when Jesus comes to the house, and Martha becomes frustrated with Mary because Mary was not helping her get ready for the dinner party. And so we've heard this story in many different ways, but I love to teach this story from the perspective of mental health, because this is a very, very clear example of anxiety and worry. Okay, because the real reason why Martha was so concerned with Mary is because Martha was dealing with bad anxiety and worry, and trying to be the great host and try to be the perfect host for Jesus. And Jesus said, Mary, you worried about the wrong things. Martha is focusing on sitting at my feet and getting in my presence, and you're focused on performing and working, and you're all anxious, and you're missing the opportunity to be in my presence. And this is what we deal with so much as a body of Christ. We get so concerned with the task at hand that we don't prioritize getting to the feet of Jesus and being in the presence of Jesus and receiving the pour from Jesus. We become anxious about what are the things I have to do for the new year? What are my New Year's resolutions? What are my new goals? What is new year, new me? All these things. We get consumed with tasks and appearing a certain way. At the core of Martha's focus was, I need to prepare this house and look like the perfect host. I understand it's Jesus, okay? You can't have a messy house. Jesus is coming over. We have to have the dishes in place. We got to have the food in place. Everything needs to be in place. This is Jesus, okay? I understand that. But we can become so consumed with looking Christian that we don't prioritize his presence. We can get so consumed with the task of what Jesus requires that we don't value being in his presence. So look at what Jesus told Martha. He told Martha when she said, Jesus, tell Mary to help me. Like, she didn't went and told Mary to Jesus, like Jesus was the daddy, like, tell her to help me. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha. And this is in John chapter 10, verses 41 through 42. He says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen the good part, which will not be taken away from her. So look at this. Jesus didn't respond to Martha the way she expected. He didn't say, yeah, Mary, get in that kitchen and clean up. Mary, get in that kitchen and help Martha out. He says, Martha, you worried about the wrong things. He says, you're worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. Listen to me. I hope you're grabbing this. He said, you're worried and troubled about many things, but only one thing is needed. What was the one thing he was talking about? What Mary did, sitting at his feet, receiving from him. Now, that word worried in the Greek, it means to be anxious. Okay? It means to be anxious. And it means divided in parts, to go to pieces, to be pulled apart in different directions. So in essence, anxiety from the biblical perspective literally means that you're being pulled apart. This is sinful anxiety and worry, okay? You're being pulled apart in different directions. This situation has me in pieces. I've been there before, where I literally couldn't even figure out my thoughts. My thoughts were cloudy. Everything just felt a mess. It was carnage because I was so anxious. I felt like I was being pulled over here and pulled over there and worried about this. My mind is on this. I'm scared about that. I'm worried about this. I'm stressed about that. You're pulled in pieces. That also means to be troubled with cares. And anxiety is related to double-mindedness. So when the Bible starts to talk about not being double-minded, it's also referring to anxiety because you're being pulled in a bunch of different directions. So one of you is trying to do what God wants. The other side is trying to do what people want. The other side is trying to do what you want. Another side is just scared. You're double-minded. You can't be focused and you can't please God when you're trying to please everything and everyone. Okay? And so he says, you're worried, and then he says, and you're troubled. Now, that word troubled in the Greek, it means to strike with panic and to show agitation of mind, to be troubled in the mind. To be to have an uproar or to be turbulent within your mind, tumult. And so it means just a state of noisy confusion and disorder. This can be mental confusion, emotional confusion. How many of you know you can be emotionally confused? You can be feeling so many different things that you can't decipher how you feel. So that's what troubled means. So he tells her, you're worried and you're troubled about many things. He says, you're worried and you're troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. So what does that tell me? That means that all the things that I am anxious about, all the things that I'm afraid about, all the things that I'm concerned about that are bothering me should not have the priority or should not weigh more and be more important than this one thing. And that's getting to his feet, getting to his presence. And I know we can get in that place where we're just like, I need some other stuff to do. And I'm going to give you some other stuff. But before we do anything else, you need to know that at the core of the solution for that anxiety and for that worry and the troubling that you experience on the inside is his presence. It's him perfecting the thing that concerns you. It's him, you giving those burdens to him at the forefront. I can give you all these other tools that I'm about to give you. But if you don't learn that in some part of this journey that you got to get into the presence of God and you have to get into his word and you have to pray and you have to be at his feet, all of these other tools are not going to be as effective as they need to be. Okay? So it has to begin and it has to end with God. Even when we have practical tools, it's still about getting into his presence. Okay? Now let's think about this whole overthinking thing, because I'm already past the time I wanted to spend. So let me get back on track. So when we talk about overthinking can cause mental exhaustion, think about this. Think about the word in general, overthinking. So I'm already thinking, but I'm thinking more, over much, okay? More than what I need to. It is possible to think about something more than you should or more than you actually need to. Y'all are quiet on this broadcast. Y'all are either taking notes or you are taking some inventory, but either way, it's okay. But overthinking means that I am thinking more than I actually need to think. There are some matters that don't require as much brain power as I'm giving them. And this can cause mental exhaustion, because you are making your mind work harder than it needs to work. Okay? And like I said, your mind, just like every part of you, just like your physical body, just like your soul, just like everything, can get tired. My brain can just be like, look, child, we didn't spent all day on this thought. We've spent all week on this thought. I am tired of this thought. When you keep thinking about things that you can't change, you can't control, that don't even concern you, or you're trying to pull stuff out of it that aren't there. That's in essence what we do when we overthink. We try to pull more out of this than we need to pull out of it. Okay? We start to try to take control over our thoughts or try to pull more information out of a situation that is not there. Good. I'm glad to hear that, Sheena. Sheena on YouTube, she said she's taking notes and taking inventory. So that's good. That's good. So we try to take more out of the situation or the statement or what happened. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and they tell you how they feel about it, and then you leave the conversation and you're still trying to figure out, like you're now saying, did they really mean what they said? Were they hiding something? Did they mean this? Maybe I should have said that. And so now you've had the conversation. You were supposed to have resolved the situation, but you walk away still thinking about and trying to assess and judge every detail of the conversation. That is overthinking. Or you have an interaction with someone. They said they're okay, but you are now worried that if they're mad at you or if you offended them or if they're going to think this certain way or did they take it this way. One of the ways you know you're overthinker too are when you over explain. Over explainers are overthinkers. And when you say something and instead of just letting it be, you got to go back and clarify and over clarify and over clarify and over clarify. And the person is like, it's not that serious. I wasn't even thinking about it, but thanks. Over explainers are overthinkers. You're making your mind work too hard. You're trying to think for you and for them, and you're afraid of them being offended, and you're afraid of being rejected, and you're afraid of people, taking it the wrong way. We have to learn to let stuff go. And typically when we over explain, it's also because of, the fear of rejection, the fear of being misjudged or misunderstood. Okay, someone said, so true. How do you deal with the fear of being misunderstood? I think the biggest thing is, and that's a great question because that is connected to over explaining. But I think it's learning how to be okay with people misunderstanding you. I think we have to accept the fact that misunderstandings are a part of life, and that there are some people that no matter how much you explain, no matter how well you think they know you, they misunderstand you. And sometimes people's misunderstanding comes through a communication break or interpretation break because of their own personal experiences. And so this is why I can't be obsessed with people understanding me, because people can only understand me from the place of their capacity to understand me and through their personal experiences. So we have different experiences. So I'm going to interpret what people say and do through my experiences. Even if I'm getting to know you and you know my heart and you know my intention, I still sometimes can interpret what you do or say through my own experiences, not through how you intended for it to be communicated or relayed to me. And so misunderstandings are going to happen because we're different people and we have different experiences. And some people are committed to misunderstanding us, right? They want a reason to have a problem. They want a reason to be offended. They want a reason to not like you. And so I think it's really important for us to get to a place of acceptance that misunderstandings are a part of life, right? And a lot of times at the root of being afraid of being misjudged or misunderstood is a fear of rejection. And so the misunderstanding piece is just fruit, it's not root. Okay? The misunderstanding piece is fruit, it's not root. The root is a fear of rejection. So I don't want to be misunderstood because I don't want to be rejected. So we have to deal with the rejection issue to be able to get to a place of accepting that people will misunderstand us. Okay? That's so tough for an overthinker because of how much that can affect people's response to you and your reputation, especially as a leader. Right. Yeah. And so we have to deal with that fear of rejection. Okay? So the misunderstanding, like I said, it's a fruit. So the over explaining is a fruit. The root is the fear of rejection. That's a whole nother broadcast. So I'm not going to get pulled into that. But so like we're talking about mental exhaustion. Okay. So mental exhaustion, like I said, anxiety, overthinking, and then we have unnecessary things on your plate. So we have to make sure that we're not taking on mental burdens that aren't ours. And if you are a helper, if you're someone who is a giver, if you're someone who has a career or calling to help people, to counsel, to instruct, to care for, sometimes we can have that inclination, that natural habit of taking on people's issues, taking on people's burdens, and that can add to the mental weight and to that exhaustion. It's taking on somebody else's problems that it really don't have anything to do with us, or we can't do anything about it. And so now we're worried about them, and our minds are reeling on them. So not only are we thinking about our own stuff, we're thinking about other people's stuff. So we have to take inventory, and we have to ensure that we don't have a savior complex. Okay. And we don't start trying to save people and fix things that only God can save and God can fix. We also need to not worry about things that have nothing to do with us. Putting yourself in people's issues and people's conflicts and people's disagreements. You got to learn to let people work out their own stuff and not be all mad and upset about something that's going on between other people. We find ourselves still mad at someone that is mad at our loved one, or mad at a friend, or mad at a sibling, and all of that, and you find yourself stressing over something that's really not, doesn't have anything to do with you, and then taking on other people's responsibilities. Don't take on and try to fix things for people. Let them learn to be responsible. Let them learn to stand on their own. So let's look at those three things. What are there things that you're dealing with anxiety and worry about? Are there areas that you're overthinking in? And are there unnecessary things on your mental plate? Okay. And so when we talk about some of these practical tools for change, venting does help. Okay. Venting does help. Finding a safe vent buddy does help, but beware. Unproductive venting is just complaining, and complaining is not helpful. Venting should make you feel better, and it should help you gain clarity, because you're basically able to talk out things so that you can hear yourself. When you vent, in essence, you're separating yourself from your issue. You're creating some distance between you and what's going on in your mind. So you're taking this ball of yarn of thoughts, and you're putting it out of you, on the outside of you, that you can hear what you're saying, and you can start to better decipher and separate all the emotions and thoughts that you have, to kind of lay it out before you, so it doesn't feel so confusing and so overwhelming. So much of our exhaustion is confusion. It's mental confusion and emotional confusion. Okay. So, but when we vent, it has to be productive. I have to gain some clarity. I have to want to feel better. I have to want to come to some kind of solution. If I'm fighting solution, and I'm fighting feeling better, and I'm fighting clarity, I'm just complaining. And complaining is not beneficial. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so another thing is writing things out. So do a mental dump of all the things that are concerning you right now, all the things, how you feel, what's on your mind. Dump it on the paper, write it out. This is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and I'm frustrated about this, and I'm worried about this, and I'm afraid of this. Do a mental dump, write all that stuff out. Okay? Because you need to, like I said, get it out of your head. Do y'all understand how much shutting down and internalizing everything, how toxic it is? Have you ever felt really, really sick, and then you threw up and you felt better? That's what it is to do a mental dump. When you have something in your system that is toxic, that's making you sick, you need to dump it out and get it out so that you can feel better. And just like when you eat something, it may be some food poison or whatever, but you feeling nauseous, you're feeling just sick, and then you throw up, you're like, oh, I got that out. I feel better. That's a mental dump. Good. I'm so glad that you did that. Writing has helped me to see. Yes, yes. You did it yesterday and did the feelings wheel. Yes. Helps so much. I love it. I love it. Yes, we have to do mental dumps. Okay, have to regurgitate that stuff, whether it's through venting, whether it's on paper. But one of the good things about doing it on paper is that it helps you to better assess it. So now that you've written it out on paper, you need to start to mark things off that shouldn't be on your mental plate. So the first thing you're going to mark off is this even, does this even have anything to do with me? That's the easiest thing to eliminate first. When you write all this stuff out, the stuff that has nothing to do with you, honey, put a big old red X through that. Where can you get a feelings wheel? I have one that I always send my members and clients, but you can just Google it, Ashley. Yeah, just Google it. Okay. So you have, the first thing that you have to mark off is what has nothing to do with me. The next thing you mark off of your mental plate is, what are the things that are out of my control? What are the things that are out of my control? Okay? Those are the things you have to give to God, because we find ourselves worrying and wrestling about things we literally have no choice but to trust God on. Okay, so the first thing you mark off are, what are things that have nothing to do with me? Next, what are the things that are outside of my control? Okay, then I want you to look at the other things. Now, let's look at the remainder things on your mental dump list. What can I fix? What is in my control? What can I fix? Because there are some things in our lives that are in our control and that we can change. And we try to lie to ourselves and say that we're helpless, that we can't do it, when in actuality, we just don't want to do what needs to be done. And at that point, you can't be mad at anybody but yourself. We want God to open up the heavens and fix things that He's empowered us to fix. You can start making the changes to get your finances better. You can start making the changes to improve your relationships. You can start making the changes in your relationship with God. These are things that you can change. You just have to decide, are you willing to do what needs to be done to change it? Okay? We can't keep complaining about things that we can change. We have to make a decision to become more disciplined and to grow and to push ourselves to get the life that we want and that God has for us. Because He's not going to hand it to you on a silver platter. You have to work for it. And we can't live our lives blaming and complaining about what people did and didn't do. If you are able-bodied and breathing, even people who aren't able-bodied have been pushing themselves to do what needs to be done. So if you are able-bodied, you really need to. Okay? We have to make the decision to change those things. So whatever's in your control that you can fix, you need to begin to pray and seek the Lord, seek wise counsel on how to fix it. Okay? How do you fix it? You can pray about that. You can seek wise counsel. You can read. You can research. Yes, you have to put some action behind those words. The word says, faith without works is dead. So I can believe God all I want, but if I'm not willing to put the work on it, that's not God's fault. Yes, wise counsel. Wise counsel. Seek wise counsel. People that have fruit, not people who just like giving advice. People whose lives that you can see show evidence of fruit. And they're all around you. You just got to humble yourself and talk to your peers, talk to friends, talk to family, talk to spiritual leadership, all these different things, okay? And then also prayer. Right? When we do that mental dump, what are the things you need to pray about? What are the things that you need to really put at the feet of God and petition the Lord for? Because those may be things like a child who's gone wayward and, it's out of your control. You can't really fix it, but you need to pray and intercede for that child. What are the things that are on your mind that you're meditating on, but you can't do anything about it, but they need to become a prayer assignment for you? There are some people and some things that need to be a prayer assignment in your life. And you need to be diligent in seeking the Lord and bringing them before the Lord and bringing that matter before the Lord, whether it's your health, the health of a loved one, your children, a job situation, but pray consistently. Okay. And seek other people to pray, put it on a prayer list as well. Okay. With people that you trust. Another tool for change. So we talked about finding a vent buddy, but making sure that venting is productive. We talked about writing everything out. Another thing is assessing your thought patterns. Okay. So we want to start to pay attention to our patterns of thought, which means this thought leads to this thought, leads to this thought, leads to this thought. Okay. So we're not just talking about a single thought, but we don't often realize that one thought triggers another thought, triggers another thought, triggers another thought. And that's how we get on that rumination, that hamster on a wheel cycle of negative thoughts. Okay. So we want to start to identify those thought patterns. I want to start to recognize what my immediate thought is in particular situations. Okay. What thoughts are triggering the anxiety? What thoughts are triggering the worry? You might have a lot of negative self talk. You might be very critical of yourself. Maybe you were raised in a critical environment, or you're in a critical marriage, and are you being criticized all the time, and so you start to criticize yourself a lot. And so once you do something, you notice your first thought is to criticize yourself. So, for example, say you do a specific task, and instead of you being happy that you did the task, your first thought is to pick it apart and criticize yourself about how it wasn't good enough, or you didn't do it the exact right way, or maybe you should have done it another way. And so your first thought is criticize yourself. Then you go into feeling like you're not good enough, you'll never do anything right. And then you go into, I'm never going to do this again. That's a thought pattern. Okay, so notice this: executed a task, began to criticize myself about the task, began to feel down on myself because I criticized myself about the task. Now have made the decision to never do the task again because I feel down on myself for criticizing myself about the task. See how that pattern happens? And we don't realize that we function this way. This is how you go into self-sabotaging behavior. I'm giving y'all some good information, and I'm already about to hit an hour. I told y'all I wasn't going to be on here for an hour, and I'm on here for an hour. So I gave you guys a whole free workshop. But so think about that. We have these patterns, and these patterns dictate our lives. They begin to create our actions. And so as you enter into the new year and you post and you rejoice and you say, honey, I ain't self-sabotaging this year. I'm not sabotaging this year. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna accomplish my goals. I'm gonna do all these. That's great. I'm so glad that you have so much motivation. I am happy for you. But guess what? If you don't know how your mind works, you're gonna still do what you did last year. I'm sorry to break the news. If you don't know how your mind works, you can't stop yourself. And so self-awareness is the key to changing how your outcome. Your motivational quotes are not going to change your year. I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm sorry. Your motivational quotes are not going to change your year. Your words of affirmation are not going to change your year if that's all you have. You need to learn yourself. You need to have self-awareness. And you need to start looking deeper at the way you think, your triggers, and the patterns of your thoughts. Because you can quote all you want, but if you don't stop it up here, you're going to find yourself in the same situation. Why? Because the brain looks for the path of least resistance. Your brain wants to use the least amount of energy possible. This is going into the biological side, okay? This is going into really the makeup of the brain. And we want to really start to think about the brain's desire to take the path of least resistance. And so the brain relies heavily on patterns. This is how God made our brain. The brain relies heavily off of memory. And so when we do something over and over, it becomes a memory. It goes into our long-term memory. So those thought patterns, those emotional patterns, they become a part of our memory. And you don't realize how much of your life you live on autopilot. Think about that. Because we really think we're always actively doing stuff. You live a lot of your life on autopilot. You get to places all the time without thinking about how you got there. You say things without thinking about what you said. You do things without thinking about why you did it. If you don't believe me, think about this. Even when we talk to children, I talk to adults. We think it's just children, but I ask adults, why did you do that? They say, I never thought about it. Why did you say that? I never thought about it. I get this in counseling all the time. I never thought about it. What does that tell me? I'm living on autopilot. I am doing things out of habit. I am saying things out of habit. I am thinking things out of habit. I am feeling things out of habit. And so when we go into a new year, we don't see the change and the growth because we're living off of unhealthy habits. Now, the work required to change these habits are the work we typically don't want to do and don't have the patience to do, because it takes work and it takes consistency to begin to change our mindsets and change these habits. And so I want you to understand that the first step to changing is becoming aware. If you work on just starting to notice, you're going to start to improve. Just start to notice. Just start to think about it, to observe yourself, to journal, to figure out, to say something and say, oh, why did I say that? To think something and say, whoa, why did I think like that? Asking yourself these questions will change your life. Asking yourself why will change your life. And you will begin the pattern or the process of creating healthier patterns just by becoming aware. Just to stop and think about what you thought and why you thought it, what you said and why you said it, what you did and why you did it, how you felt and why you felt it. And the enemy will try to take that self-awareness and make you attack yourself and beat yourself up, but don't let him. That's his trick, to make you want to shut down again or go back into your oblivious state. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to the lies of the enemy that tries to take that awareness and make you criticize yourself. You need to give those things to God. Say, I don't like that I did this, but Lord, I'm asking you to give me wisdom and give me the strength and the grace and the endurance to change this. Okay? So I want you to work on that. So when we talk about the mental exhaustion, we have to start analyzing. Is it worry and anxiety? Is it overthinking? Is it are there unnecessary things on my mental plate right now? Okay. And then, like I said, we have to begin to take those things to the Lord. We have to take those things and put them on paper so we can get some separation and really be able to be more objective about what's going on. We need to assess our thought patterns, start to identify what's triggering the anxiety, what the root of the overthinking is. Are you thinking negatively? But ultimately, like I said, the beginning and the end is always being at the feet of God, being in his presence. I want you to really commit to getting into the house of the Lord, to getting into your word, to praying more regularly, to fellowshipping with people that believe and that have faith, not the people that complain and that, will make you meditate on all the negative things going on in life. You need to get around some faith-filled people, some people that are going to be safe, some people that will encourage you, some people that will hold you accountable. You need to make it a priority to be in the house of the Lord. You need to make it a priority to have a prayer life, to study your word, because we don't stop thoughts, we exchange them. And one of the ways that you exchange those bad thoughts and those negative thoughts are with truth. And so you cannot exchange your thoughts for God's thoughts if you're not putting God's word in you, and you're not receiving God's word, and you're not gaining understanding of his word. Because the more word you get in you, the more you have to combat the lies of the enemy and exchange those thoughts. So often we're just trying to stop our thoughts. You can't just stop your brain from thinking, but you want to exchange your thoughts. You want to change them for God's truth. But you need to get environments where it's going to tell you God's truth. And you need to be studying God's truth. And you need to be praying so you know his voice. Okay? So that's going to be the beginning of breaking these cycles. And I'm living testimony. I've been through it myself. I've seen several of our members get free from those thought patterns and still continue to grow and progress. I've seen clients go through this process. You need God to do this. But you also need to be mindful of your environment and the people that are in your ear and what you see and what you listen to and who you listen to. Okay, so be very intentional about that. I know that was a lot. This was a whole class. I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed this. Very, very glad. Very, very glad. Yes, yes, yes. But that's my gift to you guys. Merry Christmas. It's my gift to Facebook. Don't say I ain't ever gave you anything. Okay. If you came in on the end, definitely go back and watch the replay. If you know people who will be blessed by this teaching, definitely share it and tag it. Okay, share it and tag it. Share it and tag them. Thank you, Dad. Yes, yes, he got all the hashtags. My father in love. But I pray that you go back and watch this again, that you take notes if you need to. Thank you, thank you. I'm so glad it's helpful. Yes, rewatch it a few times. Yes, 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 yes. And I'm gonna leave it up so you can always go back and reference this if you want those steps all over again. And if you're watching at the end, absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure, D. So glad this helped you guys. Yes, go back and watch the beginning, Tennille, for sure, for sure. So if you aren't already connected with me, make sure you do so through my social media. I am Shari Eddington, and that's on IG, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, subscribe to or sign up for my email list at sharieddington.com. One of the big things I'm going to be doing in 2023 is introducing new courses. I am working diligently to put out lots of courses in 2023. So sign up for my email list so that you'll know when new courses come out and they are posted and available for purchase. And then also make sure you're following my Facebook page so that you're alerted when I go live. I am going to start going live weekly. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to go live on Mondays during lunchtime or Thursday nights. So try to see which way I'm going to be going, but I will start a weekly broadcast on in 2023. So I'm really excited about that, and to get back to pouring into people. God kind of kept me from that for a while. I was really consumed with our church stuff, but now I have a little bit more time to be able to go back to consistently broadcasting every week. So I'm excited about that. Make sure your alerts are on so you can join me, whether it's on Monday or Thursdays. You'll see a flyer go out and it'll let you know all the information. But I love you all with the love of Christ. Make sure you join us tomorrow at the Place of Liberty for our New Year's Eve celebration. I'm really, really excited about the way God is going to move on tomorrow. I'm excited about just the praise and the worship that we're going to have tomorrow night. So join us at 6 p.m. for New Year's Eve. And then join us again on Sunday for Vision Sunday, where my husband and I release the word of the Lord for 2023. So we're just going to share what God has shown us for 2023 and also some of the great plans that we have for Liberate Church in 2023. We have a lot of events that we're going to be doing in 2023, and we're going to bring up some of our department leaders to share with you some of the events we have going on for our singles ministry, our marriage ministry, our children, our youth. So we're really excited. God is taking us higher in 2023. So get engaged, get connected. If you haven't already, join us at Liberate Church, and you can head over to our social media pages so that you can see everything that we have going on over there. So I placed our social media links on the banner below at Liberate Dallas. You can visit our website, www.liberateDallas.com. Well, you guys have a wonderful Friday night. I will see you tomorrow at the Place of Liberty and on Sunday. Blessings to you guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.